Commander Vex Talnor had exactly 3 responsibilities in his job: monitor the war beacon, file reports about the war beacon doing nothing, and try not to die of boredom while staring at the war beacon. For 30 years, he'd excelled at all 3. The beacon itself was a massive crystalline structure floating in neutral space, roughly the size of a small moon and approximately as interesting to look at. It had been built by the first civilization, those mysterious ancients who had apparently had nothing better to do than leave ominous warnings scattered across the galaxy before vanishing into history. This particular warning was supposed to activate when it detected a civilization-ending threat. In the 3 million years since its creation, it had remained silent. Most of the Galactic Council considered it a fancy paperweight at this point. Vex had 2 arms crossed over his chest and his other 2 arms holding his morning caffeine equivalent when the beacon decided to ruin his life. The crystalline structure blazed with light so bright that his 4 eyes needed a moment to adjust. Alarms screamed through his monitoring station. His beverage container hit the floor. 3 million years of silence, and the thing picked a Tuesday morning to have an episode. "No," Vex said to the beacon, as if it could hear him. "Absolutely not. I have performance reviews due next week." The beacon disagreed by emitting a frequency that made his antennae itch and his terminal explode with data. Threat detected. Civilization-ending danger identified. Coordinates locked. Have a nice apocalypse. Vex's communicator erupted with panicked voices from council members across the galaxy. High Chancellor Morn was shouting something about evacuation protocols. Defense Minister Zarek wanted to activate the Doomsday Fleet. Someone was crying. Vex couldn't tell who, but he sympathized. "Talnor!" Chancellor Morn's face appeared on his screen, all 7 of his eye stalks quivering. "Report! What triggered the beacon?" Vex frantically scrolled through the data. "I'm looking, sir. The beacon detected a transmission from the Outer Rim. System designation Sol. 3rd planet. It registered the communication pattern as a Class Omega threat signature." "What kind of weapon are we talking about?" "That's the weird part, sir. It's not a weapon. It's just radio transmissions. Music, entertainment broadcasts, commercial advertisements. There's one particularly aggressive transmission about vehicles designed for hauling cargo." "Explain how truck commercials constitute a civilization-ending threat, Commander." "Still analyzing, sir. But the beacon's pretty insistent. Whatever language they're speaking, the first civilization's AI interpreted it as a warfare protocol." Chancellor Morn's eye stalks drooped. "The first civilization built their warnings to last eons. If their technology says something's dangerous, we don't question it. Convene the council and Talnor." "Yes, sir." "Congratulations. Your boring job just became extremely interesting." "I'd like to go back to boring, sir." Denied. The transmission ended. Vex looked at the beacon, which continued blazing away like it had just won the galactic lottery. 30 years of peaceful monotony, gone. He pulled up the Sol system data on his terminal. 3rd planet from their star, mostly harmless rating. Significant water coverage, dominated by a species that called themselves humans. One of the intercepted transmissions started playing through his speakers. A female voice spoke in what the computer identified as English, a language so new it wasn't even in the galactic database yet. "This is Captain Rita Vasquez of the cargo vessel Lucky Strike, transmitting on all frequencies. If anyone's out there, Earth would really appreciate directions to the nearest rest stop. We've been flying blind for 6 months, and our snack supplies are critically low. Also, we come in peace and all that jazz. Please respond. Seriously, we're very lost." Vex listened to the entire message twice. This was the civilization-ending threat? She sounded like someone who'd made a wrong turn on the way to the grocery store. The beacon pulsed brighter. Vex sighed and began typing his report. His career had just gone from monitoring a silent relic to potentially preventing a galactic catastrophe triggered by a lost human looking for snacks. Somehow, he suspected the paperwork would be worse than the actual apocalypse. The Galactic Council chamber looked like organized chaos, had a baby with bureaucratic panic, and then set it on fire. Representatives from 200 civilizations filled the amphitheater, all talking over each other in 80 different languages. The universal translators were working overtime and occasionally just giving up, replacing sentences with the phrase, untranslatable regional panic. Ambassador Clicks oozed onto the central platform, his slug-like body glistening under the chamber lights. He raised 3 of his eye stalks for attention, managing to look pompous despite having no bones. Distinguished colleagues, please. Let us approach this with the dignity and measured response that has characterized council proceedings for millennia. We must not succumb to hysteria simply because an ancient warning system has identified a potential threat that could destroy everything we hold dear. We're all going to die, someone shouted from the back. Not helping, Clicks muttered. Vex stood at a side terminal, pulling up the data he'd compiled on the Sol system. Chancellor Morn gestured for him to present his findings. The transmission originated here, Vex said, projecting a star map. The humans have barely achieved faster-than-light travel. Their ship appears to be a cargo vessel that got lost during a routine supply run to their 4th planet. And this triggered the war beacon. Councillor Threx clicked her mandibles skeptically. One lost cargo ship. Not the ship itself, the language. When I ran the audio through analysis, the beacon's AI flagged the communication structure as matching historical patterns of warrior civilizations. Specifically, species that verbally rehearse conflict so frequently they become desensitized to actual danger. Clicks's eye stalks perked up. Fascinating. What makes this English language so aggressive? I'm still analyzing, but preliminary results are concerning. The humans use warfare terminology in casual conversation. They talk about killing time, beating deadlines, and crushing goals. Their entertainment is filled with simulated violence. They even have a cultural tradition called Monday that they universally describe as something to be survived. The council chamber erupted again. Defense Minister Zarek slammed a tentacle against his console. Invasion fleet, we need to mobilize immediately. Or, Vex said loudly, we could try talking to them first. Revolutionary concept, I know. Chancellor Morn's eye stalks swiveled toward him. You're volunteering for first contact, Commander? Absolutely not, sir. I'm a beacon monitor. I watch things that don't do anything. This is way outside my job description. Perfect. You're promoted. Head to the Sol system and assess the threat level. Try not to start an interstellar war. Sir, I don't have any diplomatic training. Then you'll fit right in with the rest of our first contact teams. Vex wanted to argue, but recognized a losing battle when he saw one. At least if the humans killed him, he wouldn't have to file any more reports. Meanwhile, Captain Rita Vasquez was having a significantly better day than Vex, primarily because she had no idea she'd accidentally threatened the entire galaxy. Danny, you seeing this? Rita leaned forward in the pilot's seat of the Lucky Strike, studying the sensor readings. We've got a ship on approach, big one. Definitely not human design. Lieutenant Danny Park, her co-pilot and the reason they'd gotten lost in the first place, nearly spilled his coffee. Are you serious? We found aliens? How do I look? Is my hair okay? We're in spacesuits, Danny. Nobody can see your hair, but when they open the airlock... If they open the airlock without us pressurizing first, your hair will be the least of your concerns. The alien ship pulled alongside them, a sleek vessel that made the Lucky Strike look like a flying trash compactor, which wasn't entirely inaccurate. The communications panel lit up with an incoming transmission. Rita hit the accept button. A being with 4 arms and multiple eyes appeared on the screen, looking like he'd rather be literally anywhere else. Greetings, human vessel. I am Commander Vex Talnor of the Galactic Council. We need to discuss your recent broadcasts. Rita grinned. Oh, thank God someone finally answered. We've been transmitting for months. Do you know how to get to the Proxima Centauri trading outpost? Our navigation system says it should be here, but we're pretty sure we made a wrong turn at Alpha Centauri. Vex's eyes blinked in sequence, which Rita would later learn meant he was processing something deeply confusing. You're lost? Completely. Also, do you guys have any snacks? We're down to protein bars and Danny won't stop complaining. I'm not complaining, I'm expressing legitimate concerns about our nutritional situation. Vex looked between them, then down at something off-screen. Let me get this straight. You accidentally triggered a 3-million-year-old warning system designed to alert the galaxy to civilization-ending threats. Because you wanted directions and snacks? Rita and Danny exchanged glances. Is that a problem? Rita asked. Vex's expression suggested he was reconsidering every life choice that had led to this moment. I need you to dock with my ship. We have a lot to discuss. Sweet! First contact! Danny, get the Earth flag. The good one, not the one we use as a curtain. As the transmission ended, Vex sent a message back to the Council. Threat assessment ongoing. Preliminary conclusion. Humans are either brilliantly deceptive or cosmically oblivious. Possibly both. Send backup. The docking process went smoothly, which should have been Vex's first warning that everything else would go catastrophically wrong. Rita and Danny floated through the airlock into Vex's ship, where they were met by the commander and his translation team. 3 specialists who'd collectively mastered 4,000 galactic languages. They looked confident. They wouldn't be for long. Captain Vasquez, Lieutenant Park, welcome aboard. Vex gestured with 2 arms while the other 2 worked a data pad. This is linguist Prex, dialectician Morn, and communication specialist Vreen. They'll be analyzing your language to determine why it triggered our warning systems. Rita extended her hand. Nice to meet you all. Thanks for not vaporizing us on sight. The day's not over, Vex muttered. Prex stepped forward, holding a translation device. Captain, if you could speak naturally, our systems will compile a linguistic database. Please describe your journey to this sector. Sure thing. So basically, we were supposed to haul mining equipment to Mars, which is our 4th planet, but Danny here decided to take a shortcut. It was a legitimate shortcut, Danny protested. The nav computer agreed with me. The nav computer also thinks Australia doesn't exist because the continent seems geographically improbable. To be fair, have you ever actually met anyone from Australia? The translation device in Prex's hands started beeping urgently. She stared at it in confusion. The translator is flagging 70% of your conversation as containing hostile intent markers. Rita blinked. What? We're just talking. You mentioned taking shortcuts and questioned the existence of a landmass. The AI interprets this as tactical deception and territorial denial. No, I mean, Australia definitely exists. Probably. The point is, Danny's shortcut added 6 months to our trip, and now we're lost in space asking 4-armed strangers for directions. Classic Danny move, Danny spread his hands. She's busting my chops, that's all. It's banter. The translation device emitted a sound like electronic screaming. Prex frantically adjusted settings. Busting chops? That's a violence descriptor, and banter translates as verbal combat ritual. Vex pinched the bridge of his nose with one hand while making notes with another. Let's try something simple. Captain, describe your planet's current condition. Is Earth at war? Oh, no more than usual. I mean, there's always something going on, but nothing major. Things are pretty chill overall. Chill? Dialectician Morn leaned forward. That's a temperature descriptor indicating preservation of remains. No, chill means relaxed, calm, taking it easy. Taking it easy, Vreen repeated slowly. Your species has conquered ease itself and now takes it as plunder. Danny started laughing. Dude, no! Taking it easy means not working too hard. But you said taking it. The verb implies forceful acquisition. It's just an expression. An expression of what? Military doctrine. Rita ran her hands through her hair. Okay, let's reset. English is just a little complicated. We've got lots of idioms and phrases that don't mean what they literally say. Prex's translator exploded. Literally. Small sparks shot out and it started smoking. Idioms? You're telling me your species has weaponized linguistic ambiguity? We haven't weaponized anything, except, actual weapons. But those are different. Vex held up all 4 hands. Everyone stop talking. Captain, Lieutenant, I need you to write down everything you say from now on, slowly, with context. Can do, Rita said. Happy to help. We'll give it our best shot. The 3 linguists gasped simultaneously. Best shot, Prex whispered. That's a direct reference to optimized targeting. Oh, come on! For the next hour, Rita and Danny attempted to explain basic English phrases while the translation team descended into academic chaos. Every clarification made things worse. Break a leg means good luck. You wish physical harm upon people you want to succeed? When it's raining cats and dogs, nobody actually falls from the sky. Then why would you say it? Piece of cake means something's easy. You've already conquered ease. Now you're consuming it in baked form? I'm dead tired doesn't mean I'm actually dead. Then why are you identifying as deceased? Danny tried to help by explaining internet memes. This was a mistake of catastrophic proportions. So when something's really good, we say it slaps. It commits physical violence? No, it just means it's awesome. Oh, or we say it's sick. Diseased? No, sick is good. Unless it's actually sick, then it's bad. Context matters. Vex was documenting everything with growing horror. The humans seemed friendly enough, but their language was a psychological minefield. Every sentence contained multiple meanings, hidden context, and what appeared to be deliberately contradictory information. Finally, Vex stopped the session. I need to report this to the council. Captain, Lieutenant, please remain here. Don't touch anything. Don't explain anything. Don't even breathe in a way that could be linguistically interpreted. That bad? Rita asked. Worse. The council is going to think English is a sophisticated weapon designed to drive enemies insane through conversation. And honestly, I'm starting to agree with them. But we're not trying to... Please, stop talking. As Vex left to contact the council, Rita turned to Danny. That could have gone better. Or could it have? Danny said philosophically. Maybe it went exactly as well as it could have, which is another way of saying it couldn't have gone worse, which means we nailed it. The translation device that hadn't exploded yet started smoking. Professor Quinn Borderax had 3 PhDs in xenolinguistics, 2 in cognitive evolution and 1 in ancient warfare patterns, which made her uniquely qualified and simultaneously completely unprepared for analyzing English. She'd been studying the recordings of Rita and Danny for 6 hours and was beginning to question her own sanity. This is impossible, she announced to Vex via video call. Human language shouldn't function. It's held together by contradiction and chaos. Vex, who'd been living with that realization for the past day, nodded sympathetically. Welcome to my nightmare. What did you find? Quinn pulled up her analysis on screen. English contains approximately 170,000 words in common usage. But here's where it gets weird. Words have multiple meanings. The word set has over 400 different definitions. Run has 645. That seems excessive. It gets worse. Humans use the same sound patterns for completely different words, like there, and there, or to, and to. The only way to know which one they mean is context, which they often deliberately obscure for humor purposes. Why would they make their own language harder to understand? That's what I've been trying to figure out. Then I found this. Quinn displayed a sentence on screen. Buffalo, 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 buffalo. Vex stared at it. What am I looking at? A grammatically correct English sentence. Buffalo is a city, an animal, and a verb meaning to confuse. This sentence translates to bison from Buffalo, New York, who are confused by other bison from Buffalo, themselves confuse bison from Buffalo. That's not a language. That's a war crime. Right? And it gets weirder. Humans constantly invent new words. They combine existing words in novel ways. They turn nouns into verbs, verbs into adjectives, and adjectives into exclamations. They have regional variations so extreme that humans from different areas sometimes can't understand each other. And they think this is normal. Vex leaned back in his chair. What about the warfare markers the beacon detected? Quinn's expression turned serious. That's the concerning part. Humans use combat terminology in non-combat situations constantly. In business, they talk about capturing market share, killing the competition, and crushing quarterly targets. In academics, they defend theses and attack arguments. Their entertainment is dominated by conflict narratives. Even their sports are described using warfare metaphors. So they're a warrior culture? That's what's strange. They're not. Current Earth has relatively low violence rates compared to historical periods, but they verbally simulate conflict constantly. It's like they're rehearsing for war without actually fighting. And the first civilization's AI interpreted this as dangerous. According to historical records, there were 3 other species with similar linguistic patterns. 2 became galaxy-spanning empires that had to be forcefully stopped. The 3rd destroyed itself before achieving interstellar travel. Vex felt his stomach sink. All 4 of them. So the beacon is right. Humans are a legitimate threat. Maybe. Or maybe there's something else entirely. Here's what I can't figure out. Quinn pulled up more data. Despite their aggressive language, humans cooperate extensively. They've built a global civilization through communication. They create art that makes them cry, tell stories that make them laugh, and use words to heal emotional wounds. Their language is a weapon, yes, but also a tool, a toy, and a form of social bonding. It's simultaneously their greatest strength and most ridiculous weakness. That doesn't help me decide whether to recommend quarantine or first contact. No, Quinn agreed. But I did find something interesting in Captain Vasquez's personal logs. She played an audio file. Rita's voice filled Vex's office. Day 183 of being lost in space. Danny still won't admit his shortcut was a bad idea. The stars look beautiful tonight, though. Makes you think about how big the universe is and how small we are. If there's anyone else out there, I hope they're looking up at their sky too, wondering the same thing. Space is lonely enough without being the only ones in it. Vex listened to the entire log. It was simple, honest, and completely lacking the aggressive patterns the beacon had detected. This wasn't the voice of a warrior preparing for conquest. This was someone who just wanted to know they weren't alone. She doesn't sound dangerous, Vex said quietly. No, she sounds human. And maybe that's exactly what the beacon was warning us about. Not that they're dangerous now, but that they could be. The question is, do we give them that chance? Vex thought about Rita and Danny, with their confusing idioms and terrible navigation skills. He thought about how excited they'd been to meet aliens, how Danny had insisted on bringing an Earth flag that was absolutely not appropriate for formal first contact. He thought about Rita's genuine confusion when the translator flagged her friendly conversation as hostile. I need to talk to the council, Vex said, and I think I need to talk to Rita again. What are you going to tell them? The truth. That humans are simultaneously the most dangerous and most ridiculous species I've ever encountered. And that maybe, just maybe, the galaxy could use a little more ridiculous right now. Quinn smiled, which on her species involved opening a mouth full of crystals. That's either brilliant or suicidal. With humans involved, I'm starting to think those might be the same thing. The emergency council session was exactly as chaotic as Vex had feared. Ambassador Clix had somehow made himself interim chairman and was milking the drama for everything it was worth. The evidence is clear, Clix announced, his eye stalks waving dramatically. The humans represent a clear and present danger. Their language is aggressive, their behavior unpredictable, and their cultural exports include something called reality television, which Professor Borderax has classified as a potential psychological weapon. Vex stood to present his counter-argument. With respect, Ambassador, I've spent significant time with the humans. They're not malicious. They're just confusing. Confusion can be weaponized, Commander. So can bureaucracy, but we still let you run meetings. Several council members made sounds that the translator interpreted as suppressed laughter. Clix's eye stalks stiffened. The question before us, Chancellor Morn intervened, is whether to quarantine Earth or proceed with standard first contact protocols. Commander Talnor, you've reviewed Professor Borderax's analysis. What's your recommendation? Vex took a breath. I recommend we actually figure out why the beacon activated. Not just how, but why the first civilization programmed it to respond to linguistic patterns in the first place. We already know why, Defense Minister Zarek growled. Species that verbally rehearse conflict become threats. But that's not what the beacon is actually detecting. Vex pulled up his analysis. Professor Borderax and I dug deeper into the first civilization's programming. The beacon doesn't just flag aggressive language, it flags species that use verbal conflict simulation as a primary social bonding mechanism. The council chamber went quiet. Think about it, Vex continued. Humans argue for fun. They debate, they banter, they roast each other as a form of friendship. They create elaborate fictional conflicts in their entertainment and use them to process emotions. They've turned verbal combat into an art form that has nothing to do with actual violence. Quinn's hologram appeared beside him. Commander Talnor is correct. After analyzing thousands of hours of human communication, I've identified the pattern. Humans don't rehearse conflict to prepare for war. They simulate it to avoid war. By constantly expressing aggression verbally, they drain it away before it becomes physical. That's the most backward logic I've ever heard, Clix sputtered. It's completely illogical, Quinn agreed. It's also brilliantly effective. Historical Earth data shows that as their communication technology improved and verbal conflict increased, actual warfare decreased. They literally argue their way to peace. Vex added another data layer to the display. The first civilization encountered 3 species with similar patterns. We assumed they were all threats. But what if the first civilization wasn't warning us about danger? What if they were warning us about potential? Explain, Chancellor Morn said. 2 of those species became empires. Aggressive, yes, but also innovative, adaptive, and impossible to predict. They pushed galactic development forward by centuries before their military expansions were stopped. The 3rd species destroyed itself, true. But the other 2 changed everything. The first civilization wasn't saying these species are dangerous. Kill them. They were saying these species are dangerous. Watch them carefully because they'll either revolutionize the galaxy or end it. And you think humans fall into the revolutionary category? Zarek asked skeptically. I think they got lost trying to deliver mining equipment and accidentally triggered a 3-million-year-old warning system by asking for directions. They are either the most elaborate threat in galactic history or the most cosmically unlucky species ever to achieve spaceflight. Either way, they're interesting. Ambassador Clix oozed forward. This is all very philosophical, Commander, but it doesn't address the fundamental question. Can we trust them? Before Vex could answer, his communicator chirped. It was Rita. Commander, we might have a problem. Vex activated the public channel with a growing sense of dread. Define problem, Captain. So Danny was exploring your ship's database, which I told him not to do, but he did anyway. And he found the files about the war beacon. We know you guys think we're dangerous. The council chamber erupted. Clix's eye stalks went rigid. They breached our security. Actually, Danny's voice chimed in, your security is pretty terrible. Your password was literally password 1234. We assumed it was a test. Vex put his head in his hands. All 4 of them. Rita continued, Look, we get it. We show up unannounced, trigger your ancient alien warning system, and our language makes your translators explode. That's a bad first impression. But here's the thing. We came out here looking for you. Not to invade or conquer or whatever. We came out here because we're tired of being alone. Her voice carried through the chamber, and Vex noticed several council members actually listening. Earth spent centuries fighting ourselves, Rita said. We've done terrible things. We've got a language that sounds like a war plan and a history that's got more violence than we'd like to admit. But we learned, we grew up. And when we finally got our act together enough to reach the stars, the first thing we wanted to do was find someone else to talk to. Someone to learn from. Someone to share all this ridiculous universe with. You triggered a doomsday warning, Clix pointed out. Yeah, and that's on us. But we did it by broadcasting music, entertainment, and an educational video about Earth's geological history. Our most aggressive act was advertising pickup trucks. If that's what counts as threatening behavior these days, your galaxy might need to relax a little. Vex saw several council members exchange glances. Rita had a point, and she was making it in the most human way possible, through completely inappropriate honesty. So here's what we propose, Rita continued. Instead of quarantining us or blowing us up or whatever the council's considering, how about you give us a shot? Let us prove we're not the threat your beacon thinks we are. And if we screw up, well, you've got 3 million years of experience dealing with species like us. You'll figure it out. The channel went silent. Vex looked around the chamber, trying to gauge reactions. Chancellor Morn's eye stalks were thoughtful. Minister Zarek looked skeptical, but not hostile. Even Clix seemed uncertain. Motion to vote, Vex said suddenly. The Council has 3 options: quarantine Earth, deny contact, or grant provisional membership with a monitoring period. I vote for option 3. Seconded, Quinn said immediately. This is highly irregular, Clix protested. So are humans, Vex replied. Maybe it's time we tried irregular. The Council vote took 3 hours, which was actually fast by galactic bureaucracy standards. Vex spent most of that time with Rita and Danny, explaining the process and trying not to think about how much his life had changed in 72 hours. So what happens if they vote no? Danny asked. Best case, you go home and Earth gets added to the no-contact list for a few centuries. Worst case, orbital quarantine and complete communication blackout. And if they vote yes, then Earth becomes a provisional member of the Galactic Council, subject to observation and evaluation. You get access to galactic technology, trade networks, and the collective knowledge of 200 civilizations. Plus, you have to follow about 60,000 pages of regulations that I'll be responsible for enforcing. Rita grinned. You're going to be our babysitter? Liaison officer, it sounds more dignified. It really doesn't, the communicator chimed. Chancellor Morn's face appeared, all 7 eye stalks arranged in what Vex had learned to recognize as cautious optimism. The Council has reached a decision. Captain Vasquez, Lieutenant Park, please stand by for the official verdict. Rita and Danny scrambled to look presentable, which mostly involved Danny trying to smooth his hair again despite still wearing a spacesuit. The Galactic Council, having reviewed all evidence and testimony regarding humanity and the Sol 3 civilization, has voted to grant provisional membership status. Welcome to the galactic community. Danny let out a whoop that probably violated several noise ordinances. Rita was grinning so hard, her face looked like it might break. However, Morn continued, and the celebration died down, this membership comes with conditions. Commander Talnor will serve as Earth's permanent liaison officer. All human vessels must undergo cultural education before operating in Council space, and Earth must submit to linguistic analysis to help us update our translation protocols, because your language has literally broken 3 of our most advanced AIs. We can work with that, Rita said diplomatically, elbowing Danny before he could say something inappropriate. There's one more thing, Morn added. Ambassador Clix has requested to speak. Clix's smug face replaced Morn's. Vex felt his antennae twitch with irritation. Captain Vasquez, I want it on record that I opposed this decision. I believe humanity represents a significant risk factor. Noted, Rita said flatly. However, Clix continued, I am a diplomat above all else. If the Council has voted to accept you, then I will support that decision. I only ask one thing. What's that? Teach me about these memes Lieutenant Park keeps referencing. I've analyzed them for hours, and I suspect they're the key to understanding human social dynamics. Also possibly a cyber weapon, but I'm willing to risk it. Danny's face lit up. Oh man, you want to learn about memes? I got you. First, we start with the classics. Do you know about the dancing baby? Please don't, Vex muttered. And then there's Grumpy Cat, and Success Kid, and the entire evolution of Rick rolling. Vex watched Clix's expressions cycle through confusion, horror, fascination, and finally something that might have been understanding or possibly a stroke. It was hard to tell with his species. The official transmission ended, leaving Vex alone with Rita and Danny in what was technically his office, but felt increasingly like a disaster coordination center. So, Rita said, leaning back against the wall, you're stuck with us now. Apparently. You don't sound thrilled. Vex considered lying, then remembered humans could somehow detect sarcasm despite their own language being built on it. 30 years I monitored that beacon. 30 years of peaceful, boring, predictable nothingness. Then you two show up, trigger a galactic crisis, break my translation AI, and somehow convince the Council to let you join anyway. My life was simple before you arrived. And now? Now I'm the liaison officer to a species that uses warfare terminology as punctuation and thinks getting lost in space for 6 months is just an amusing anecdote. I'll spend the rest of my career trying to prevent diplomatic incidents caused by your idioms and explaining to other species that when humans say they're dying of laughter, it's not a medical emergency. Rita studied his face, or what she could see of it. But, Vex admitted, it's the first time in 30 years I've actually wanted to come to work. You humans are exhausting, confusing, and possibly insane. You're also the most genuinely interesting thing that's happened to this galaxy in centuries. So yes, I'm stuck with you, and I'm okay with that. Danny pumped his fist. Character development, I love it! Don't make me regret this. Too late, buddy. We're friends now, that's how humans work. We decide we like someone, and then we make it their problem. That's actually concerning. You'll get used to it. Over the next few weeks, Vex discovered that Danny was absolutely right. He did get used to it, in the same way someone might get used to living next to an active volcano. Constant awareness that something could explode at any moment, but also a strange appreciation for the chaos. Rita and Danny became semi-permanent fixtures on his ship, while they coordinated Earth's formal introduction to the Council. Vex taught them galactic protocols. They taught him Earth slang, much to his dismay. He learned that humans bonded through something called banter, which was essentially recreational arguing. They learned that most alien species found human directness either refreshing or terrifying, with no middle ground. The linguistic analysis continued. Professor Borderax published a paper titled English, a case study in functional chaos that became required reading in xenolinguistics programs across the galaxy. The translation AI was eventually fixed, though it now included a warning label, may experience existential crisis when processing human communication. 6 months after first contact, Vex found himself back at the war beacon with Rita, showing her the structure that had started everything. It's beautiful, Rita said, looking at the crystalline monument floating in space. It tried to warn the galaxy that you were coming. Yeah, but in a nice way, like, heads up, these humans are going to be a handful. That's not what the warning meant. It's what I'm choosing to believe. Rita grinned. Besides, look at it this way. That beacon sat silent for 3 million years, waiting for something significant enough to activate it. Something that would change everything. And it lit up for us. For 2 lost idiots in a cargo ship asking for directions. And snacks, Vex added. And snacks, Rita agreed. We couldn't even do a threatening invasion right. We just showed up and asked if anyone had extra protein bars. Vex made a sound that might have been laughter, or might have been something breaking internally. With humans around, it was honestly hard to tell the difference. You know what the really funny part is? Rita continued. We triggered a warning system designed to alert the galaxy about civilizations that could destroy everything. Through verbal combat and linguistic chaos. And the galaxy's response was to make us official members and assign you as our babysitter. Liaison officer. You can keep saying that, but we both know what you are now. You're the guy who's responsible for making sure we don't accidentally start an intergalactic war by misusing idioms. That's the worst job in the Council. Probably. Danny kept trying to explain sports metaphors to Minister Zarek yesterday. I had to physically remove him from the situation. What happened? He told Zarek that the Earth soccer team really murdered the competition. Then he tried to explain that murder was good in this context. I think Zarek actually considered declaring war on Earth until I intervened. Vex closed his eyes, all 4 of them simultaneously. This was his life now. So, Rita said, what does the beacon do now? Does it turn off? Does it keep broadcasting warnings about us? It went dormant again, but the Council kept the alert active. Every species in the galaxy now knows that humans exist and that we consider you significant enough to monitor indefinitely. Some are terrified, some are fascinated. One ambassador requested a cultural exchange program so his species could learn about memes. That was Clicks. Obviously. They stood in silence for a while, watching the beacon glitter in the starlight. Somewhere in the background, Danny was probably breaking something or accidentally offending someone. Somewhere on Earth, humans were going about their lives, completely unaware that they'd been added to a galactic database as a potential civilization-ending threat. And somewhere in the Council chambers, ambassadors were probably arguing about how to handle the humans while their translation AIs suffered existential crises. You know what I think? Rita said finally. I think the first civilization was right to build that beacon. I think they understood something fundamental about advanced civilizations. Every species that reaches the stars carries potential. Potential for brilliance or potential for catastrophe. And sometimes, just sometimes, you need an ancient alien system to tell you that something amazing just showed up, and it's probably going to change everything. That is surprisingly philosophical for someone whose greatest diplomatic achievement so far has been not starting wars through careless word choice. I'm full of surprises. Also, Danny's calling. Something about showing Clicks his meme collection. We should probably stop him before he explains Rickroll. It's too late. I got a message from Clicks 2 hours ago asking what a roll was and why getting rolled into one constituted a surprise. Oh no. Oh yes. I think we've created a monster. They headed back toward the ship, where Danny's enthusiastic voice could be heard through the communication system, currently explaining the concept of loss to an increasingly confused slug alien. Somewhere, a translation AI was smoking. Somewhere else, a council member was questioning their life choices. And somewhere in the void between stars, the war beacon pulsed with quiet satisfaction. It had waited 3 million years to find what it was looking for. It had found a species that spoke in riddles and metaphors, that bonded through friendly hostility, that looked at the vast and uncaring universe and decided the best response was to make jokes about it. It had found humans. And in its ancient alien way, the beacon understood something that would take the Galactic Council years to figure out. Humans weren't a threat waiting to happen. They were an opportunity wrapped in chaos, delivered by a lost cargo ship with a terrible navigation system. They were the punchline to a joke the first civilization had been telling for 3 million years. They were new, they were loud, they were absolutely infuriating and brilliantly unpredictable. They were exactly what the galaxy needed. Back on Earth, a notification popped up in humanity's collective social networks. A species called the Galactic Council had officially contacted Earth, made formal first contact, and granted provisional membership in an intergalactic community of 200 civilizations. Humanity's response was immediate and predictable. Within hours, memes were being created. Within days, conspiracy theories were circulating. Within weeks, someone had started a petition to rename Earth to something cooler. But buried in all that noise was something more important. Buried beneath the jokes and the sarcasm and the inevitable chaos that followed humanity everywhere like a loyal dog, there was hope. The hope that maybe, just maybe, we weren't alone. That we didn't have to be afraid of the dark anymore. That somewhere out there, other species were looking up at their stars too, wondering if anyone was looking back. And somewhere in the void, a war beacon that had been silent since creation quietly acknowledged that it had done its job. It had warned the galaxy, it had called attention to the impossible, it had essentially pointed at humanity and said, "Watch this." The beacon dimmed, satisfied. Vex, meanwhile, filed his first report as official Earth liaison. Subject has achieved provisional membership in Galactic Council. Threat level, still undetermined. Chaos level, maximum. Recommendation, continue observation and pray their navigation systems improve before they accidentally stumble into a more dangerous part of space. Probability of humans starting an intergalactic incident through misused idioms, 95%. Probability of somehow talking their way out of it, 96%. Maybe, Vex concluded, the galaxy didn't need warriors or conquerors or perfect civilizations. Maybe it just needed humans. Loud, confused, well-meaning humans who thought asking for directions and snacks was a legitimate approach to first contact. In retrospect, the first civilization had been trying to tell them